there's something called computational linguistics. And as you talk about the way AI is now a part of our world, kids are using it. They're going to use it. The young learners in college, and, in post-secondary, they're using it. The students in secondary are using it, helping it to help them draft their papers or whatever, and or to get information, or to be able to articulate their information that they've gathered concisely and in a way that people are able to understand. But or just getting information. But a lot of people don't understand that AI is only as good as those people that make it or that build it. And if you're not speaking the language, or it's not spoken to a language, or if you're looking at face recognition and it's not set for lighting for someone of our hue, then you get into all of these nuances. And it's the same thing with with schooling. Like, schooling has become so nuanced that we forget. And I've heard people, and I even sometimes I teeter on it, but I'm pretty much on the stance of that when we try to do, or when we try to be inclusive in our schools, we excluded some of the things that are inherently who we are.
It's Coach D here. I'm a post-secondary and workforce readiness coach, author, and speaker. And I'm empowering educators, inspiring students, and transforming schools one conversation at a time. Welcome to Coach D Wants to Know, the podcast where we dive deep into all things post-secondary success. Whether it's career readiness through college, trade schools, the military, apprenticeships, or entrepreneurships, we're talking about it. This podcast is for school leaders, counselors, business owners, parents, and students who want to explore every opportunity behind high school. Because when we know better, we guide better. So let's jump in and uncover the possibilities together, because Coach D wants to know. All right. Hey, y'all. It's Coach D here, empowering educators, inspiring students, and transforming schools one conversation at a time. Today's episode is going to challenge us to think deeply about the systems we work in every single day. I'm joined by Chuqq L. I don't want to get his name right, so he told me to just say Chuqq L. So Chuqq L, because he's going to explain a little bit more about himself as we get into this, but he's an incredible leader in the STEM education space. He's the principal partner of Easiest Pie Educational Services, the founder of COGSTEM, and a champion for making real, lasting changes in how we prepare students for college, careers, and beyond. So we're talking about everything from the power of microschools to the urgent need for stronger instructional leadership in math, CTAE, and science. And yes, we're going to get into some courageous conversations about what's really happening inside of our schools. So grab your notebook, because this one is full of gems. So let's get into it. Chuqq, welcome to Coach D Wants to Know. For starters, I want to know more about your current role and what inspires you to return to public education after your work in STEM-focused organizations.
Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning for those people that will see this in the morning. What actually got me back into public education and my role in public education was just the need for STEM in the public schools. And if I'm being, you see, if it shows my title, Ethno STEM Strategist, we have to be honest. There are a lot of opportunities out there. And sometimes those opportunities are not afforded. I was just having this conversation about sometimes business of educating without empowering. And I just felt that I need to be, whether it be in a classroom, in a grade level, in a after school experience, that I just start to do as I do in my nonprofit, and that is empower young learners with just some tough love. Sometimes you got to let somebody know who they are and who they aren't at the same time. And we'll leave it for the courageous conversation I'm saying there's a lot of people playing education. I don't mean to step on any toes, but there are too many people looking for charter schools, alternative education programs, micro schools, ways, dual enrollment, ways to get out of school, or trying to circumvent the way we do public education, for us not to address that playtime is over.
I got you. I got you. So when you're saying that, you did mention when I was asking you some of the questions about your stance on education, what do you do? Some of the things you want to see differently. You talked about micro schools. So can you share what excites you most about that concept and why it is needed right now?
So I'm not a micro school expert, but I play one on TV, and so I know a little bit about the feelings of because let's just be honest. Since I've been in education, and that's 25 plus years, there's always been this thing, especially if you look at Georgia. So I don't like to talk about it a lot, but I do hold a tier 2 leadership certification in Georgia. So I took a lot of my classes, with now superintendents. And, I don't looking beyond the schoolhouse and looking beyond and looking at how we build budgets in a school district. And they used to talk about, there was actually a lawsuit about how there was not equality and fidelity about how school districts were funded. And so a lot of people are looking for something in the area, and that's coming back around now with this whole thing about, closing or not giving funds to districts, and districts, schools having to close, and neighborhood schools that have been around for 50, 60, 70 years are now going away, and people are looking for a way to, I don't care about your test. I don't care what that test says. I want my child to have employable skills, to be literate, and not and there's a certain thing in the STEM that we talk about when you talk about jobs, and I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm going to bring it back. There's something called computational linguistics, and as you talk about the way AI is now a part of our world, kids are using it. They're going to use it. The young learners in college, and, in post-secondary, they're using it. The students in secondary are using it, to help them draft their papers or whatever, and or to get information, or to be able to articulate their information that they've gathered concisely and in a way that people are able to understand. But or just getting information. But a lot of people don't understand that AI is only as good as those people that make it or that build it. And if you're not speaking the language, or it's not spoken to a language, or if you're looking at face recognition and it's not set for lighting for someone of our hue, then you get into all of these nuances. And it's the same thing with with schooling. Like, schooling has become so nuanced that we forget. And I've heard people, and I even sometimes I teeter on it, but I'm pretty much on the stance of that when we try to do, or when we try to be inclusive in our schools, we excluded some of the things that are inherently who we are. And I see other schools. I work with students in the Jesuit schools. They don't give up who they are. I work with students in homeschool programs that are Seventh Day, that are Mormon. I've gone out to Utah a couple of times, and they don't give up who they are. So I've seen that public schools, and that's what excites me about micro schools, because micro schools, you can take a child, and that child can be a phenomenal artist, and you can teach them all the literature. They don't need to read. I'm a big fan of Chaucer. Canterbury Tales is my all-time favorite. I love Canterbury Tales, but Mike doesn't have to like Canterbury Tales if he wants to be a cartoonist, or wants to be an artist, and the stories that he wants to tell. Chaucer may not grab him. The elements of Shakespeare may not grab him unless he decides to flip it and make it in a comic book style or something like that. But that just may not be, or how to, you got to think about it. When we were in school, we were diagramming sentences. They don't diagram a sentence anymore. Does that mean that sentences are now they're saying, oh, we're doing this in so much and going so much deeper, but we've made moves from not being able to sit at the lunch counters of other people to being able to be the people owning the lunch counters. So you can't tell me that there's just we try to do this one size fits all. And what micro schools allows you to fit you to fit your shoe, for your shoe to fit you. If you need orthotics in your shoe, if you need a bit of a Dr. Scholl's, if you need an odor eater, whatever you need in your shoe, that micro school will give it to you. You know me, Coach. You know
I do. And you brought back a fond memory. I loved to go to the board to diagram that sentence, to fill everything.
You knew what an article was. You knew what an article was.
I loved English. I write books. I love it. And you're really speaking like one of the series that I'm working on right now is Who's at the Table. And I'm trying to get people to understand exactly what you're talking about, how we're trying to make everybody fit into one particular mold. And that Who's at the Table series is about really the student leadership, your SGAs, your student body presidents and that sort that are in your schools, and how they really only represent, honestly, the top 10. They're not representing everybody in that school. The people who want to go to work, straight to work with some great career training, entrepreneurs, your skilled workers, the people that want to go to the military. I have yet to really see if those kids were not high performing already, and that's just a choice that they made to go a different route. I have really rarely seen those be a part of student government or a part of those who have a voice in the school. And so they're not speaking for everybody, again, because you're trying to make everybody fit one particular mold. And I am a huge proponent of everybody having a seat at the table, everybody being seen, everybody being heard. At one particular school where I'm at right now, we had the Rising 9th grade parent night last night. And there was a young girl, 8th grade, came by our table because we had a student success center table set up, came by, her and her father. And, we were talking about what she wanted to do life after high school. And that's what we help you do. We want to catch you early, help you plan your whole path out. So, you just don't fall through the cracks or anything like that. And her dad was just really just so proud behind her. And he was like, tell her what you already do. Tell her what you're already doing. And she said, I weld. So this is an 8th grade girl who's already welding. And so I made sure I gave her information because it was there. It was present on my table about a trade institute who trains welders. And it talked about what you do there and how you get in and what you can make. There's no way I would try to make that young lady just change her mindset. She was so proud to let us know that she is already welding. So I'm going to latch on to you immediately, and we're going to push whichever way we need to go to get you there. Now, are we just going to cut out college and cut out all the pathways? No, but I'm not going to diminish or make her feel like she's lesser than because she wants to be a welder. She already knows that at 8th grade. She's so proud of that. And what worries me is that she could come into this system that we currently have in public schools, and all she hears is you got to go to college to be successful. You got to do this. You got to do that. That's not what she's thinking.
So can I just stop you right there and tell you? So it's a quiet secret that I went to the University of Georgia, and I went to the University of Georgia, and then I went to the University of Georgia again. And when working in alumni, the Alumni Association, I was in the Alumni Association probably about 7 years before I realized that you didn't have to be an alumni to be in the Alumni Association. And a large part of the donorship came from people. I won't be ethno-STEM. I'll just say from people that never even went to Georgia, that were welders, that were that had taken an idea or taken their skill and then made it into a business. And then their business became a $100,000 business, or what we like to call a 6-figure business, then became $1 million business, and went on figure business, and on and on. And so, like you're saying, why do we then tell certain, especially young ladies, like that we like in COGSTEM, we had programs like that, like with automotive. You can go, you don't have to spend or get into this debt for college, and she can leave high school, and like you said, she's already doing it now. She can leave high school with various certifications that go beyond, and she can come out making 32, 42, 52,000 a year until she get, as an entry, until she get, and that's not even with overtime, because they need
that's just straight your 40 hours. Yes.
Right. And even work part-time in that. And I tell people about those jobs like that. And the funny thing that you said, so let me tell you about, because I know you wanted me to put a little pepper in about me being a math consultant. So you remember Y equals MX plus B, right? Yes. You teach her Y equals MX plus B this way. Y is your output, X is your input. We always learn that, right? M is what your rate is, whatever it is. So, and B is your starting point, where you start. I don't feel like math teachers, speaking as a math teacher, ever did a good job of explaining all the parts of it before we talk about. We gave it the name. That's why I'm not even saying the name of it. I'm saying Y equals MX plus B for a reason. I know somebody in the here is like, why don't you just say this? I don't want to say that. I want to say Y equals MX plus B because I want to break it down to this young lady. If she wants to make Y $750 a day or $750 a week. No, that's not even. She wants to make $2,000 a week. Okay. M is what she charges per hour. X is the input of how many hours that she needs to work. And then B is, hey, when you go on that call, if you charge or if like plumbers do, or like electricians do, they charge you just to come out to the house. Right. That is your starting point. That B is your starting point. When you tell kids that, when you make it real world like that, when you're sitting in a math class and you have a plumber come out, when you have a welder come out and say, well, before I go on a job, they have to pay me $125 just to come look at it, just to come diagnose. And then I charge this per hour. How much? When you start making it real world like that, that's what micro schools can do. That is what we're not doing in public education. They say, oh yeah, we have CTAE programs, and another quiet is kept secret is you can look at, people can look it up. I'll give them and I'll print it out for them. I'm family and consumer science certified and ag ed certified. So like I'm a home ec teacher, but I know I can use math because home ec is the way you teach kids fractions. Welding and having to see the inches, how many half inches, and knowing that a half inch is 2 1/4 inches. That's why 2/4 is equal to a half. When you're doing it in real world time and in real applicable situations, and not having you read, Johnny had half a bar of candy. He then had another 3/8 bar of candy. How much does it? But when you put it to, hey, this is your job and this is how you're making your money, or this is because you said you brought in the military as a vet myself, former military and ASVAB, and knowing that it can be life or death when we were doing, and I was a corpsman. So when we were doing those drips back before everything is so technologically based, and you can get it comes through and you can set it to however many drips. No, we had to get on our watch and we had to look at the drips and count the drips for 15 seconds and then multiply that times 4, because 15 times 4 is 60 seconds, which is a minute, and see how many drips per minute. Those are the things those theories that I learned in that career and information studies, or those theories that I learned when I got my master's in educational administration and policy, or when I was even to undergrad, going all the way back to undergrad, those theories, that's just to show you can do it, or that you can. That's showing somebody that you can do a job. And people that do jobs are often expendable. I was trying to find another word. I can't.
It's funny that you said CTAE, because again, I have my certification in CTAE as well, and I led a college and career academy where all we had was CTAE courses. And you talk about math, and every one of my courses had to have that math or those basic reading skills in it. So again, we had culinary arts. You got to do your measurements. You have to know what to put, how much of each ingredient to put in for it to come out the way it's supposed to. Construction. So in the construction pathway, I mean, my goodness, we got to know these fractions and decimals if this house that we're building for people is going to be level. You know, even in there in the drone pilots program, all of it is using math. But again, just like you're saying, it's not to the point to where we've got to have trigonometry to do this. So we're skipping, and I've always said we're skipping over those basics, those basic fundamentals that are the foreground, the foundation for everything that our kids need. We're skipping over that. And I tell the joke all the time, we've got some of the smartest kids on paper, you know, as far as what their transcripts, the courses that they've taken, they probably can tell me the breakdown of a raindrop, everything that's in that raindrop, but they won't put up an umbrella when they go outside. So, you know, I tell that because, again, we're skipping over the foundation, trying to make it seem like we have the best data. Our kids are taking this amount of APs, this amount of honors classes, they're dual enrolled, they're everything, but they're everything. I guess they're everything. They're prepared to do everything but be a productive citizen and be a good worker in our workforce. And that's where our HR departments, that's where our industry is coming in and saying, we got it wrong. We were a part of the problem, and they're really, you know, they're admitting to this. We were a part of the problem. We were saying everybody had to have a college degree. Everybody needed to go to college. But number one, you know, we don't have the people in the workforce anymore because the baby boomers are retiring. All the knowledge is about to walk out of these places, and we're not preparing that pipeline. Number two, you're getting people, like you said, with the degrees, the bachelor's and the master's, but they don't understand the process of how to do this job. So again, all of this is going into what we're talking about, the micro schools, concentrating on, you know, what is that kid naturally wired to do? What do they want to do? And can we, you know, just focus on it and help them get there first? And I always say, just because they don't go to college right out of high school doesn't mean they won't eventually go. There are so many paths. There's so many ways to get to where we want them to be, but we need to first start with where they want to be and, you know, and really lock in with them. Mm-hmm. So with that, you know, I think we kind of already segmented into this next part, but it's the challenges that we're facing right now in education. So obviously you are passionate about the education and training of those pre-service and those early career educators as well, especially in math, especially in STEM literacy and in CTAE. What do you feel are biggest gaps that, you know, what are the biggest gaps right there in preparing those pre-service teachers and those early career teachers? What are our biggest gaps?
And I should have remembered this. I should have wrote it down because I don't want to get the numbers wrong. But, and I'll come back to it, but just from a math standpoint, in K through 5, you have less than 20% of, and I'm going high when I say less than 20%, but you have less than 20% of your teachers that are teaching these students math education K through 5 that have an endorsement or some kind of degree related to math. You have in the middle school, you have less than 50%. In the high schools, you might have about 3 out of every 4. That's how are you doing that? You know, I know if you've gone to any high school, you've had at least 1 or 2 people in the math department that were not from here. When I mean that, I mean they're not United States. They're not even United States citizens. They've come over on a visa to teach mathematics because we are behind. They don't have the skill set. So we need to make sure, just like we're making sure that with literacy and making sure that everybody has to make sure they have all of this literacy base, and all of this stuff about literacy. But yet our numbers are still down even in literacy. And that's because literacy it's subjective. You you can't tell me that it's not. It's subjective. Yeah, I mean, you can tell me a noun is a noun, but it's the types of things you have written. It's the way, like I said, with the computational linguistics, it's the way it's written. It's in the language, in the vernacular. Um, uh, Uncle Tom's Cabin is a literary, is an American literary, like everybody has at least heard of it, right?
Right.
But it wasn't written in any kind of in the ways that we want our kids to read these GMAS test passages in. And I have even had friends that of other ethnicities to say that Uncle Tom's Cabin is a hard read. It's hard to read Southern dialect. Oh, what did you say? Oh, when you write that? Or but if we write it, or you see, even if you see the letters, you know exactly. So we have to switch that up and change that up to understand that we have got to get our pre-service teachers that in mathematics, because math doesn't have the math is the math. Like the number, like 2 is 2. 2 is 2. I've taught kids from Morocco. I've taught Singapore math. I've taught going back home overseas and taught. I've been talk to kids in Belgium about math, and whether they speak fluent English or I speak Amharic or whatever, however it is, we can still have a conversation about math. Because math is universal. Doesn't care what color you are, doesn't care what size bra you wear, doesn't care what draws you wear. If you wear draws, don't care. Like, doesn't care. We have to start being real. Everybody always wants to be and everything like that. And I learned that in my dissertation process. It's a whole lot of stuff. When you're writing, I didn't understand half the stuff I was writing because it was all this him and how. Let's get real. Let's just say what it is. Let's be real about it. They need to have math consultants in the school, because they having these academic coaches that don't know math, having these instructional leaders that say they're instructional leaders but don't understand math, and understand that there's a certain way, it's not about curriculum. It never should be about curriculum. Math is math. The concepts are the concepts, and we have to be honest. Are our kids able to get that concept at this? Because now they're doing all this thing in Georgia with pushing down, and I talk to parents in meetings all the time. I just had a parent workshop on the GMAS, and they were like, well, Mike, all this, and they have to know, and my child's teacher does this. And I'm saying, hey, the teacher is only doing what the teacher is. They don't make the curriculum plan. They don't drive the curriculum. They don't make the standards. That's who you vote for. If you have that problem with it, go and vote in November and get and find a state superintendent that speaks to what you want to speak to, that speaks to, hey, technical colleges are important. They just started saying technical colleges are important. That, hey, CTAE programs should be this. Hey, that literature should be. But now they going into all of these things. They should know how to do this. But then they give them all of the, once again, going back to all of it's that systemic, the systemic hurdles and obstacles that aren't talked about, that get in. So the challenge is all the way around. And I'm going to say this, the challenge is getting parents that want to be parents. I'm going to say that too. Like, I feel like you're going to be a parent, that you should at least have an associate's degree in early childhood development, because you shouldn't be saying, well, I love this child. Oh, I could love a yacht all day long, but I can't drive it from here where I can't.
That's true.
So we have to be honest, and then we also have to say, like, how do we love? Like, is the way that we love, like, educating or saying that you educate a child? I've seen it. I experienced it myself. I experienced people saying that they were educating me, and they were really obstacles in my way of education. And so Yeah. So the challenges that we're facing. So I'm gonna say it like this, and I don't know if I agree with the way that current policies or current leadership viewpoint is as it relates to things such as the Department of Education and how we do public education, but I understand why. I understand why the views are the way they are, because there have been too many people like somebody's toe gonna be hurt, but we've been in these positions and not caring about these babies and thinking just because we're hard on them that means we don't care, and thinking if we easy on them and just let them do it. Oh, as long as I get my check and I can ride around in my Lexus or my Mercedes or my Tesla.
We got to learn. One thing we definitely have to do is get back to a point. And again, I guess we're going to always keep going back to the basics. That's all you're going to really hear now is back to the basics, because we've skipped over that fundamental character piece, trying to get kids with 4.5 GPAs. We've skipped over that character piece, trying to make sure every kid has at least been accepted to 45 colleges.
Yeah.
Or, you've gotten scholarships from everywhere, but you can only go to one place if you're going.
But tell it, no, you're skimming over it. Tell it, the connection that you and I have, we've been there. We know about SAP. You got a 4.5, but yet because you get to college and now you take a class and you worried about your GPA, you drop in classes and now you're not meeting SAP. And now you got to go in front for a SAP appeal, and some people don't even know what we're talking about.
What Chuck is talking about, I used to be a director of financial aid at a college, and so when he says SAP, that's satisfactory academic progress. You have to be making that in order to maintain your academic standing at the college and to keep getting aid. All of that is a requirement. You can't be dropping all classes, because if you fall below that threshold of the percent that you registered for, enrolled in, and you drop below a percentage, then that means they can pull your financial aid. And that was one of the things that I had to do, is send out those letters when you are not meeting that. And again,
mama can't do like she does at Eastern High. She can't just come up there and want to talk to the counselor. Your name is not on that paperwork, ma'am. I cannot talk to you.
Yeah, your child is an adult now. And again, when you're thinking about all of this, you mentioned dual enrollment a little while ago, and that's another thing I advise kids and their parents not to go for dual enrollment, especially if you're still waking up your child every day for school. If you're still washing dishes for them, if you're still doing everything for them, that kid is not ready for dual enrollment, because what it's doing is it may look great on that transcript, but that kid is building their college transcript and their high school transcript at the same time. And you don't want to start your college transcript with a C, an F, or whatever the case may be, because it sounded good. Dual enrollment is not for everybody. It could be if we're prepared, but we just can't just lump everybody into these processes and this flow just because it sounds great and we think it's going to look good on their transcript. Are they really prepared for that? Is that the route they need to go? And if it is, and you don't have to be taking English 1101 and your math course and your history, you can be going to dual enrollment for welding. You can dual enroll for cosmetology. You can dual enroll for a high demand career as well, and not necessarily just those general core classes. So there's just so many things that we are miseducated about. And when we're miseducated, we continue to pass that down, and our students follow that same path. And then, it's always, why didn't somebody tell me? So again, we have a responsibility to make sure, like you talked about, as becoming a parent, you might not be able to get an associate's degree in that early childhood or childhood, adolescence, or anything like that. But you do need to make an effort to be a partner with the child's counselor. If they have a graduation coach, if they have anybody in that school, to know along the way what's changing. That's one of the things I consistently talk to my kids about. You cannot do what the kids in 2019 were doing and expect to last under current situations. You cannot do what the kids in 2024 did. and those graduates, everything is changing. But one thing I do talk to them about is they can't take away your GPA, your test scores. If you're taking those ASVAB or SAT or ACT, prepare for it. It's too much free information out here that you should go in there blind and just winging it. Those are things that if you work for, they're going to be solid. They're going to be set in stone, and you can maneuver the way you want to maneuver. Your back's not against the wall, and you have to accept the only thing that's out there for you. We can start preparing these kids. When I taught in South Carolina, I had students who were taking the SAT and getting their scores that they wanted to go to wherever they want. They were in middle school taking the SAT. They didn't take it their first round in the junior or senior when your back is against the wall and you got to get that score. They were doing that in middle school.
Right.
So, they're just things that we need to do a little bit differently, think a little bit differently, and help our kids understand there are so many paths, like I said in the beginning, to success. But if college is the chosen path, then we got to do a lot better from all stakeholders to make sure that they have the resources that they need to get there, and not just, again, doing it for data, but doing it for them to prepare for the career that they want to have, that they want to transition into.
And we have to be honest about the experiences versus being experienced, because you talked about the dual enrollment, and that child just may not be cognitively ready to take that college algebra right. They might need to have gone, and I know people have their thoughts about the military or whatever, but they might need to take a year off and work and be like, oh, I understand now why that does that. We need to talk about that. So they might need to be more experienced, or they might need experiences. They might need to have you cook with them. You saying, oh, I'm not that teacher, I can't do that, but you can teach fractions, this, or if you have to measure something and you're building something, and you have, hey, don't just let them sit there and you keep just, well, they're my child, I got to take care of them. Yeah, they're your child and you take care of them, but taking care is a symbiotic thing. Like, and that means pointing to them in skills and giving them experience. When I was in junior high, why I knew about photosynthesis?
Why?
Because of my grandmother, who had a 5th grade education. Because baby, you got to talk to the plant, CO2, you got to water the plant, H2O, you got to put it in the sun, which is the chemical that is going to create that, or be the catalyst for that chemical reaction, for then that CO2 to break, and that carbon to break from that oxygen, and then combine with that water to find you a sugar. That's where you and then she did stuff like you making like peanut brittle and stuff like that, and understanding that's going to be your sugar. And then now that the C has broken away, the carbon has broken away from the oxygen, now you got O2 that you can breathe in. So you breathe and talk to the plant and water it and put it inside, so that it can give you whatever you growing, sweet potatoes or whatever, and all of that, and understanding, and then doing peanuts. And people today, I laugh at people just not having experiences to be talking about, well, if you allergic to peanuts, then you can't eat almonds and cashews. Well, those are tree nuts. Almonds and cashews are tree nuts. Peanut is a legume, and it's not the same. It's not grown on a tree. It comes from under the ground, and it's a legume. It's more related to soybeans and stuff like that. So a lot of people that have peanut allergies should also check and make sure, because we go on these diets about, well, I'm going to eat a soy burger, I'm not going to eat real meat or whatever like that. It's just those experiences. So I tell people they need to have experiences and then be experienced before we just try to do everything that we see everybody else do.
Right. And I think when you talk about experiences and those, the way you can relate it, we're going to always go back to our background in CTAE, because that is all CTAE is built on, is experiences, not just you again sitting there absorbing somebody just feeding information to you. No, you're taking it and you're manipulating and you're figuring out how this works. And you've got some projects that you got to produce, and you got to present it in front of the class. And you may have industry people coming in, so you can't just pretend like this works or pretend like this concept that you have is going to be valid, because you have industry people coming in to work with you, and they're going to tell you that would never work in our company. So let's go back to the drawing board. Let's figure this out. Let's try this. What would you think about this? And they're going to make you think through this process, and it makes you step your game up because you have, again, real industry people who do this job every single day, and you're having to prove to them how your process works. A lot of times you're taking real world projects that the company brings into your classroom, and they want you to fix it for them. They know you got great ideas. They know you're young. They know you have time to invest in this. It's a school project. You're going to get, a grade. And plus that company is going to get a new process that they didn't even think about, because a lot of times they're set in their ways in that company. They don't think outside the box like they should. But you got young, fresh minds who are out there learning everything through, like you said, AI, through Instagram, through TikTok. They know much more than we do, because we are still trying to learn our stuff at our age through the books, through, whatever we're reading online. No, they're out there actually making it, breaking it, tearing it apart, and building it and changing it into something else. And a lot of companies love that. When I was teaching, of course, mine was entrepreneurship. So I did financial literacy. I had entrepreneurship. I had so many small businesses and entrepreneur groups that would come in, and those kids loved every minute of it. When I was in South Carolina, very forward thinking. I was able, my principal, and I love him to death. I love him. He was the very first one when I transitioned from the college level into that. He allowed me, Dr. Roach, he allowed me to start up a virtual enterprise. That's what they called it there. It was called virtual enterprise. I was able to go out to the furniture company, to the office supply warehouse, and pick out a full-fledged corporate room within the school building. I had cubicles. We had a conference table. We had conference chairs. The kids had desks. There was a vice president of sales. There was a vice president of marketing. They had to come up with virtual products. They had to do their pricing strategies, salaries. They did payroll every single week. So that's what CTAE is. And they competed against other schools all throughout South Carolina. They were able to go, some schools that made it all the way to nationals. But that's an experience that you cannot get in an algebra class or a science class. But like you said, it took the math, the reading, the language that you need in a regular work setting, and it was taught in that classroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's good. So again, we'll preach all day on CTAE, but we're
all day, and then twice on Sunday. Yeah, got to come back. Yeah, go get your little lunch and come on back on Sunday.
Right, we can definitely be the cheerleaders, the band, everything for CTAE. So
yeah, but can I just say this?
Yeah, go for it.
I wish that more CTAE professionals that were in those positions in the central office were as passionate about it as well. And I think sometimes it's what is that called, that when they put you in a position because they know you have leadership and you're good at and you've done this, so then they try to put you in, and then they say, well, you know what, we can't find anybody in CTAE, so hey, we're gonna put you in CTAE. If you've never been in CTAE or have CTAE experiences, you should not be heading a CTAE department.
I've known some people that have been the head over it. Yeah.
I know you have. I know you have. We're gonna leave it there. We're not gonna say it.
No, and my CTAE teachers, they've had a tough time with it because they do not understand. Again, you're going in to do an observation and you're expecting to see kids seated somewhere. They're working on a worksheet, or they're doing a problem, or they're alone. But you walk into a CTAE room and it's probably very chaotic for somebody that does not.
Would you go eat at a restaurant and think it was a 5-star? I tell people like this, just go watch any cooking challenge, any of them. You can do the one. My new one is the one with the what is it called, culinary poker or whatever it is, where they go in and they draw cards to see what they're gonna cook, and then if you got to draw a card, and you can either use it as either gonna help you or hurt you, and then it's like playing poker. It's a chef's poker. I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, I've been watching that, and like you said, any of those people be like, oh, well, let me draw. let me fill out this worksheet on the meal that I'm going to prepare for you. And it was, oh, you're going to love it because it's going to have this. No, that you got to get in there, do it. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you got to pivot and everything. Like, hey, you've never seen any people that get that, hey, this is a great restaurant. And if you go back and look in their kitchen, that the people are just quiet and not knowing. You use communication like that, and sometimes they use an explicative or but sometimes but they also know, hey, this the market price. Then that's why they say market price, because they know at this week, because of the fluctuation, because they know, because of what's going on with this or what's going on with this piece of meat or whatever like this, or what's going on with the price of tomatoes, that we're going to do this. And that's that real world. But yet you get those CTAE directors that come in, or the people that they put in place that are from English language art. I'm sorry, or from let me not pick on ELA, or from social studies, or from PE. They like, oh, that
Yeah, they don't understand it, but the kids on the back end are, again, that's why I'm here. That's why I keep coming back to this place, because I know I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do what really I love to do. Unless, and we don't, this will have to be a part 2 for us when we're talking about CTAE, unless CTAE, that classroom has been used as that dumping ground where they didn't have anywhere else to put them, and they just keep, let's just throw them in there.
Which they do.
Yeah, so that's a whole different episode. And but again, when CTAE, and I've been, again, like you said, they're starting to shine this light, the light that we always knew was on CTAE, and a lot of money, especially in Georgia, is being funneled to CTAE programs and technical schools now, because again, we got to replenish the workforce, and we want to replenish them with kids who are trained in those high career demands right now, and those career demands that are high. So it's the light is coming on, which should have always been on. And I always say that it has to be an and instead of an or. It should never ever been AP, honors, gifted, or CTAE. CTAE should have always been up there just as high. Just like I tell principals when I go in and I do PD, you should be preparing your students for the ASVAB, just like you prepare your students for the SAT and the ACT.
And to be honest with you, if people really knew, so when I had to take my, you have to take the statistics courses. And one of the things the professor told me about that they used was the SAT. The SAT is just a snapshot of why you could possibly be successful in this because of this. It doesn't really measure anything. ASVAB is an aptitude. It measures what you like, what you have proclivities to be able to do, and it actually looks at because it asks you math questions in a skilled based way. I just tell everybody, I think every child should just take the ASVAB. I really do. They should just take the ASVAB, regardless, military or not. Just take the ASVAB. It will give you a picture of where your interests are, what you have aptitude in, and how you can go even in the real world. So even if you don't go into the military, because the military is gonna be like, well, you're gonna go into this rate because these are where your strengths are, and this is where you like. So if we're gonna have you in the military, we're gonna at least let you be kind of enjoy your job a little bit, or you will think you'll enjoy your job.
Right.
Yeah. So and you were saying that I was just coming back. I just came back from South Carolina and saw a couple of signs. So a veterinarian now, straight out of school, with I think the 3 years of experience, make $200,000 a year. So animal husbandry is something that has taken place in certain CTAE programs, but a lot of principals are scared of that or whatever. But how else are you going to get that? What do you think veterinary school is? What do you think medical school is? Medical school and veterinary school, dental school are CTAE. It's not it's not what they don't care about the math then. Can you do the work? Can you make this incision a 3/4 or a quarter inch, 1 1/4 inch deep, and not puncture this vein?
Yeah.
We could
it's
go
the
on.
hands-on that we're skipping over. I think you just kind of sort of segmented into my next topic, and it is instructional leadership and school-wide action. So on that note, when we talk, and what you're already doing is like we're literally already here. When we talk about instructional leadership in math, CTAE, and science, what do strong leaders in these areas need to be doing differently, in your opinion?
Admitting that they don't know what they don't know. First of all, being honest. We could go doctor for doctor all day long, and you got it in curriculum and instruction, but curriculum and instruction very rarely ever talks about CTAE.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about, well, curriculum is curriculum. No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. Being able to talk about football, there's a lot of coaches. There's a lot of football coaches that are great football coaches that never were great football athletes. Because there's a difference. And there's a lot of great football athletes, pro athletes, that'll never make great coaches. They're not the same. There has to be a mesh. You have to be able to, first of all, a person can't say that can't do it alone. There needs to be an admin team. And just like you said, it needs to have, what is you say the series? Please plug that series that you're going to do again. It's going to be called
Who's at the Table?
Who's at the Table? That's what, look at an admin team and see who's at the table. And people got to stop getting in their feelings. And it's okay. Being on different ends of thought does not make you have to, where you don't have to like each other. Just because you disagree. Some people disagree just to be disagreeable. and instead of looking at, and you know this, and I hate to say it, but I'll say it again. I was having this conversation with my COGSTEM is not a nonprofit. It's a 50, it's a IRS recognized 501c3 organization. You gonna put some respect on my organization. We've been that way for celebrating now. We are now in our 12th year of being a 501c3. A lot of people talk about nonprofits. Nonprofits can be grassroots, but I say that to say when we look at it and we talk about things in there, I don't just go for what I want. I have a board, and I have different people coming and different people saying, and I can't just be about me and why I founded it or why I started it and what we were doing. It has to be everybody sitting there talking and having the conversations and saying, hey, we need to do this. This is where STEM education for young women this is where STEM education for young women of color has gone. It's the same thing. And so school-wide action is that you got to have everybody at the table talking. You can't do or be an instructional leader in math and don't listen to your math teachers, especially if you've never taught math. Yeah. And I'm not saying just any math, but those people that know, like you're saying, well, we want to see this and we want to do that and everything like that. I'll give you an example. You can't say, okay, our curriculum is we're using, well, already is a good one. I wish that most schools would use already, and I'm not plugging them. I'm just saying, but like, let's just say first in math, because you adopted first in math, and you got babies that are on splash learn level. You got graders just on splash learn level, but you're telling a teacher that's just like your doctor saying, or you saying, well, doctor, this is like any doctor that says, well, I saw this in medical school, and I just saw this in medical school, or this is what they taught me in medical school. This is what the book says that is. It might present that way, but you have to learn how to pivot. That is what, and I keep going back to medical school because that is the big thing. Like, that's the only way that we're going to get people to start listening is if we start making this a life and death thing. And we start talking about the health, because the health of our country as it relates to our economic structure is based on the fact that we don't give people skills to be anything but just influencers. And in those days of you getting money to do that, and you being able to go to the government because you have a friend that's in government and have these plans, those days are over with. you like it or not. Those that people are crying about losing their job, and I feel for them. But you got to know how to pivot. You know how many times I done lost my job, and my losing of my job has been because, I know me. I lose my own job. I can't do this no more. And people, but and that, what I'm saying? Because I listen to somebody who tells me, hey, please leave before I have to push you out. Because when I push you out, you're not gonna be ready. So get ready.
Yeah.
Get ready.
And that's one thing about if you stay beyond your time, you will be miserable. So yeah. When it's time, it's time.
So I have the distinct pleasure of firing myself. I love to be able to say that. Then in all of my years of education, I've fired and rehired myself.
Right.
And people need to do that. People need to do that. But going back to that instruction, to bring it back into the eggshell, there has to be school-wide action where people have to understand they know what they know, and what they don't know is okay. They can learn it in it, but math is one of those things you can't learn in a day. Right. And it's not all about it. And curriculum is not. It's just like if I gave you a one all cure all shot. Some people don't want to do that. Some people don't want to do. And I'm trying to go somewhere other than that. Some people don't want to do radiation therapy. Some people don't want to take a pill. They may have a small esophagus. They don't swallow pills well. Some people are afraid of needles. They don't want to take the shot. Some people don't want, to have the radiation in their hair fall out, or to go through that. Some people don't want the surgery. They want to go holistic. And we've had people that we've lost, and people that we've been able to help us and to survive using all of those methods. So why we don't do that? Why do we think, oh, I'm the leader of this, I know what I'm talking about, and you've never taught a math class, you've never sat in there in a math class, you don't know a square root from a a rutabaga. I'm trying to think of something. Almost said something. I'm gonna win that.
When I was leading the academy, again, I told you we got all kind of disciplines in there. The one thing that I did do, I learned a lot in everything. I learned, a lot in culinary arts because of my observations. I learned a lot in construction, in the drone program. I mean, I was so impressed in the drone program and what those kids were doing. I started studying with them and got my drone pilot's license as well. So I'm a commercial pilot for drones right now. So because it was what was going on, and I know where this world is going, these kids are getting relevant skills right now for where this future is going in CTAE. So again, I was so inspired by those kids at 16 years old getting it. I'm like, hey, I'm coming in too. What do I need to do? But one thing, again, ABTF, I had digital media. We had teaching as a profession. I was no kind of expert in any of that. But what I did was, because my teachers were skilled in it, I allowed them to teach me. I allowed them to say, okay, we're going to need this. And I listened. I did not go in demanding. Now, there's certain parts of classroom management and instruction that are just across the board. I don't care what discipline you're teaching. There are certain things, we're building those relationships, bringing the parents in as partners, making sure kids are where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be. You're not out in the hall, you're in the classroom, you're not going anywhere the first 15, last 15, whatever. There's certain things that you do that just are across the board. I don't care the discipline. But I'm not going in that room to tell you how you have to teach your content, which you're trained in, and I'm not. So I'm in there, I'm listening to you, I'm having one-on-one sessions, I'm allowing you to have input. And then we're bringing all this together. And then if there's something that I don't know and you don't know, trust me, I'm going to find somebody in my partnerships, in somebody that I know who I can bring in to help you in this, to help grow you in that area so you can be strong. I'm not going to ever go in there and say that you have to do things my way, that you know how to do this. I'm in here learning just like the kids are. And I love that. I stayed in the classrooms. I stayed in there with the students and with the teacher as a support, not as I got you. I'm not in here. My observation tool was to help build you as a teacher. I want you to be the best. I'm not in here trying to ding you or trying to, again, trying to catch you in anything. I want you to be the best teacher you can be, because if you're the best teacher you can be, my students are going to get the best experience they can get. And that was my whole goal, is to build up teachers, to build up my students, to build up our whole academy across the board. Our test scores, were great. Our kids were getting experiences more than just books and just somebody lecturing you. We were bringing in industry partners. Our advisory board grew. Our advisory board became a part of our building. They were in there. They invited our kids out to their companies. They gave them experiences. So to me, that's what it was all about. And that's what our high schools, our traditional public schools, have to become that way as well. I always say that there's this misconception that the educators don't want business in there, and then the business, they're thinking that they don't want us to come in. We need each other in this to make sure our schools are generating career ready citizens, not just a boatload of people who think that they got to go to college to be successful. We need to be taken. I really wish we didn't say college and career readiness anymore. And I really wish we just said career readiness or post-secondary readiness, right. Workforce readiness.
Because why are you going to college? To get a career.
Right.
Yeah. So just career readiness. Yeah.
We've got to do a lot of rebranding. First of all, CTAE, it's the old term vocational tech, and that mindset that you had to go over there because you couldn't go to college. You weren't on the college prep track, so you had to go to vocational tech track. Again, that's what that or was, that big or in there, and it never should have been there. So there's a lot of rebranding that has to take place in everybody's minds to make sure that they understand. We got some people that went career tech and came straight out of high school with some industry recognized certifications, making more money than the person with the 4-year degree did when they came out.
Right. So, had a student when I had a student, I had a student that was an undergrad when I was in Korean Information Studies program, and had him. And so one of the things that was like, we had to, to become, they want you to not only start getting and building up your writing and your publications and publishing, but they also want you to be able, in case you go to post-secondary, to be able to start as a dean or whatever, to be able to besides their counselors, but have conversations as the leader, basically that instructional leader. So I had a group of undergrads, and one of them was a sophomore, and he ended up deciding. So we had a conversation. I said, well, you might want to take that at Athens Tech. And he ended up finding the program and loving the class so much and finding the program that he was like, yeah, I'm leaving UGA. I'm just gonna go because I can finish. With all that I already have, I can be finished in at the end of the year. This, and this was like his sophomore year. He was like, I can be done at the end of the year, and and they're saying I can make like 65 to 70 starting out. That's the low end. That's the low end. And you don't even have a you know how many people with masters are looking for that. And he's talking about it, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's money to be made. There is money, and you and I do something else. Like we continue. We have skills. I know this is not that forum, but you and I have other skills that and I tell kids that all the time. I was like, yo, I have I'm a secret agent. You're more of a private eye, but I'm you use yours, but people know you just. But I'm a secret agent. With my dad, when I was in college, my dad was a broker and was like, get your real estate license, because you're gonna always be, and no matter what happens, you always, if you want to leave a job, if your boss did your job, you can go do that, because you can always say, you got the gift of gab.
Right.
I'm saying that to say that we have to be in a mindset on all levels with these kids, is to get them skills, not worry about a curriculum, not anything, but getting them skills, tangible skills. And if it's like you said, if it's not in what we thought it was, because the thing is, and all of it is that we want to have a workforce. Every time anybody argues, they always say, because they don't work and everything, or whatever they say, right? It's always about work. That's the thing. That's the default is workforce. right? I don't want nobody mooching off the system. They need to get a job. Like nobody needs to get a job. They need to have skills in a career. Nobody needs it. I don't want people I don't get a job is never my. I never tell anybody get a job. Get some skills. Get something that'll be able to feed your belly. Even if you become a professional survivalist.
Get some skills, get marketable, tangible skills that you can move from this industry to that industry, from this state to that state, that it just gives you the power to be able to make your own call. Like you said, you fired yourself several times. It gives you power. And that's really what you want. You want to be able to have the power to navigate whatever situation is going on. So yes, we both have our real estate license. We both have our own businesses. I do professional development for CTAE and for college and career readiness for post-secondary. I even need to switch it my own self for post-secondary success. You're out here, you're educating our youth. You're making sure that you put STEM at the forefront. So again, all of this is what we need to pass along to our students. While again, instead of just forcing down their throats, college, again, we need to shift the narrative. It needs to be skills. And skills that's going to help you pay the bills.
Right.
Yes. So as you're talking about CTAE, and we know that if you traditionally look at a CTAE pathway and course, for me, I know I can say I very rarely had a discipline issue in my class, because the kids wanted to know the content. Even the kids that did not want that initially became very fond of what I was teaching, because again, it's hands-on. It's what they want to know. I will forever remember one day an assistant principal just bust in my room, and I'm like, what is going on? What is it? And they looking for this student, and the student was over there working. And she was just beside herself because she had this report. Some other teacher had said they were doing this, that, or the other, and whatever. And she could not believe that this kid was just over there sitting down doing the work. Because again, the work was relevant. The work was what they were wanting to learn. They wanted to be able to do it. They saw how they could use it right now, today, not in 4, 10 years or ever. And that's one of the biggest questions that you hear kids say about our public education system. When will I ever use this? Right. So what do you think about discipline? And I know that's another area you're very passionate about. What does effective school-wide discipline in action look like to you? And how can, CTAE, career readiness, post-secondary support, how can that help with a school's discipline?
Well, I always say that engagement is management. They talk about classroom management. Classroom engagement is classroom management. When you have a child, like you said, when you have a child engaged, you don't have, that's part of it right there is that. But I just want people to follow what they have in place. If you have a behavior, a lot of schools now have these things called behavior matrix. And if you have a matrix that says, and you have all of these cute letters, and you want to go and ask the kid, no, but are you implementing it? And as a math education person, I always say this. I get it. It's easier to not deal with that one parent that may be a headache. But when has 1 or 2 or 5 ever been greater? I'm just going by a grade level. Let's say you have 100 kids in a grade level. Let's say you have 10 kids. Let's say you have 5 kids that are just really, really, I'll give you 10. If you have 10 kids that are really, 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 really they just like, they don't care, like they bout it, everything like that. Why? But they need to be in class though. They have to be, we got to get them whatever like that. We need to find other things. Like I'll tell you, I recently had to I pulled a child and like, hey, come with me. Pulled them out of their 4th grade class. Come with me, because I have an at, and a lot of people. That's the one thing. Like the school doesn't even know that they even have an aquaponics. Teachers don't know everything that. I go. That's one of the things I do is make sure to get them towards STEM certification. I was like, come with me. Kid hadn't even done anything yet. Kid hadn't done anything yet, but I was being proactive because I was, hey, I need you to help me. I'm gonna teach you how to cut basil, because I'm growing basil and peppers, and everything, and I'm talking to them about that, and I'm showing them. I was like, well, why do you have that light there? Well, you see, this is a more of a dark room, and so even though there's a window right there, it can't get in, and this is beyond you. I would tell you about photosynthesis, but you don't want to know that. You want to get back to class and cut up, right? He looked, he was like, no. I want you to tell me about this. He said, oh, I want to know why, and was breaking it down and was taking us, hey, those little things that you use in the math, those little math manipulatives for the hands to mind, whatever it's called. I should know the name of it. I'm going through and saying that to him. Say, hey, let me show you how it is, and we're doing that, and we're working through it. And he said, well, why you have the fish? Well, when the fish, fish do just like you do. They use the bathroom and everything, so we use that wastewater because it has nutrients in it, and it goes up. That's what you said, and just teaching them. So I'm saying, engaging children, but also knowing, like, also on the way back, being able to tell them, like, hey, now you need to when you in that class, you need to sit your tail down, because that's a class. Because how you worrying about, well, I don't understand this. If you cutting up, and then you won't be able to go. Well, can I come back with you? No, you're not coming back until I see this and that. I just needed you to come this time to see what the possibilities are. Mm-hmm. But now, come please, no, the one that no, you have to show and improve. And that's the same thing. I see a lot of administrators, and maybe that's why I don't have why I wouldn't, and I'm not even looking to have one, but I don't have a school now, because I probably would be different. Maybe the teachers would run over me, because I feel like we jump on our teachers, but then we don't jump on, like, it's teaching and learning. Mm-hmm. So, but we always want to teach the teaching. Why don't we teach the learning? Like, we have to, we see where they are. You're moving them along. So just that behavior matrix, if you say it is what it is, make it be, not, trying to appease, but going back to the math, the few that are disrupted should never outweigh the ones that want to learn, because kids are going to be kids. Kids are going to do stuff. When I was a kid, I did stuff. It is going to happen. But those ones that, and everybody say, those ones sometimes, well, like, okay, well, you deal with them. Mm-hmm. They won't. When I was and we talk about that with second. When I was an AP, let me give him to me. Let me have him and everything. Oh, but you hear all this now. Oh, I got a meeting. Everybody always on their meeting and their titles and trying to get to the next level. This is not about that. This is about children. Mm-hmm. These are about students and learners. And I tell you, people gonna find out. People that do wrong by children, they get it one way or another. And I'm gonna say it like this, and those people that know what I'm talking about. When I left Atlanta, when I left a Metro Atlanta school system back in 2001, it was because they used to go down and they started out going to the center at Georgia Tech, and then they moved it to the World Congress Center, and they would go in and they would have all these little parties and parades in front of all the other schools about these schools that made all of these games, right? I said, yeah, I can't do this because the school I'm at ain't gonna never make those games, because these kids are coming from. I taught in zone 3. Those people that are in Metro Atlanta know what I'm talking about. I was in zone 3. I was in it where I had kids that were getting paid to be lookout. I'm just trying to get them to connect. So that takes some time, to get kids to even plug into school. When school, you know what I'm saying? Because all they look at school for, some of them, let's just be honest, it's like, I can go get a meal there, but but that ain't what, I ain't trying to do all of that. That ain't what I seen. That is not the history of my family. That's not the history of whatever. But anyway, and I said, when I left after that last one, I said, I'm not saying, because it's not about children. This is about show. And people are going to reap that. Now, if you go and do the history lesson and find out if you could go and surmise what system or what district I'm talking about, and you go out and read the whole story and see where that person is today, and see that they're not with us, and see what happened to when they weren't with us, you got to pay for what you do. And people are going to be like, ooh, Chuck, you shouldn't like that's a harsh stance to take. But when you do wrong by these kids, that's a harsh stance to take.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they can be, trust me. I tell them all the time. I tell them I goes off on a child, but I goes off with love because with love, and there's a difference. Like, and I'm telling them, hey, it's about this, and I give them the real world to it. Just letting things go by, even that's mistreatment, neglect. It's called neglect. And we talk about getting these trainings and have these trainings about, well, if you see neglect and how to know the difference between abuse and neglect, but we don't even talk about educational neglect. But that's a whole nother thing. Stop. Let me. Period.
Now, that's the whole other. And again, I built my kids know that I'm their eyes away from their parents, so they know I'm mama at school, in the hallways and whatever. So I mean, I get it when you say that you are real with them, you are hard on them, but you're hard and real with love. So they know it's coming from a place of love. It's not coming from a place of me just trying to discipline you with our relationship. It's really me trying to get you in line to become something, to get all these dreams that you have, to get out of the circumstances and the situations that you're in. And you maybe be the person that in your family that whatever's been going on, it stops with you. Because we got the tools, we got the strategies, we're going to work this thing out, and we're going to have a real plan, not a wish. We're going to make it make sense. If you're not 4.0 material right now, we can still get to wherever you want to be. We're just going to have to go a different route. Everybody has a route to get to where they want to be. And I think that's one of the things how we fail and how we neglect those kids, by not realizing what they want is valid. What they can be is valid. And we just need to help them navigate and how to get there. Excuse me. All right. So we're going to transition just to looking ahead. We've looked at, the past, where we are now. So let's look ahead. When you think about the future of post-secondary success for students, what is your vision?
Simple. That students, even if it's in pockets, that they find happiness in what they're doing, and that they're able to sustain, going back to the hierarchy of needs, this is sustain their basic needs of being able to have food, because we see the times are changing. Atlanta, if you've been in Atlanta more than 10 years, you've seen the price of housing double.
Yes.
And the good thing about it was that, like, being in real estate, I knew to, have properties and have stuff to always have a roof over my, to have, even if I want to downsize, do that. If I want to up, I can do this and this and move this to do that. But I'm saying all that to say I want kids just to be able to sustain themselves. Sustain themselves and find some happiness in it, because I just like, we have enough of it's too much of people not liking themselves, and that's why we can't like each other, because we got too much going on, and we need to get back to basics. And also we need to start pouring, you saying about the students, but we also need to look at how we treat the educators and take care of them, because you're looking at a workforce of people. Once you said, and it's not as technical as maybe welding or computer analytics, but you got a workforce that's steadily leaving. And I just talked to a group of because that's my area, is zero math educated, educating math teachers pre-service in 0 to 5. And so I'm talking to teachers to be like, they just trying to get to 10, because with 10 in the state of Georgia, you're vested.
Right.
You got something that's saying like, nah, I ain't giving them 10. They're gonna get these 5. They're gonna get these 5 good years. They're gonna give me enough good material to become a stand-up comedian, and then I'm gonna write my own Abbott Elementary.
Wow. And and that's again, we run in the same spaces. We are so similar in what we do, because I do the new teacher PD as well, trying to do everything I can to make my administrators understand that they've got to find the balance for these teachers, especially our new one. We are losing some great teachers every single day. And it used to be, honestly, I had conversations today with some people that I don't think they're going to hold on past next week. It used to be that they would at least finish out the school year.
They don't even finish out the school year now.
I mean, how do you leave in October? That's where we are with what's going on in our profession right now. And so even with my teacher burnout book, when I first wrote it, I really thought I was writing it to administrators. Because myself as a school leader, I thought that I had worked so hard. This was my dream position. I was leading a college and career academy. It was my dream position. Mm-hmm. But for me, what was going on and what was being pushed down, and I was supposed to continue to push that down on these teachers who I know without a shadow of a doubt were doing their best every single day under the circumstances, dealing with these students and cell phone usage and discipline and, the parents or the lack of parental support, but consistently day in and day out, it was something new on them. I didn't have the best, I guess, perception of school leadership at that particular time.
Right.
And so I was writing this book. I'd been writing in it. And so I decided to leave the profession and finish this book. So again, I thought I was writing it at school administrators because of what I saw from that lens. But then when people started getting it and teachers were reading it, and I just got so much love and so much support from teachers because they were saying somebody is speaking up for us. Somebody is saying what they will not listen to us. We're doing everything we can to say it, but they don't pay attention to us and they don't listen to us. So again, it became like a book for everybody. I even went and did some professional development at Clark Atlanta, and I was able to be in a new teacher class. It was like one of their last classes before and some of them were doing student teaching already. Some were about to do student teaching. And so we talked about it and we looked at, the chapters because I wanted them to know what they needed to ask for when they went into those buildings, to be able to see what's missing. And it really went through a lot of what we always say, we're checking off a box. Do you have this new teacher mentorship program? Yes, you got it. But how is it really mentoring to the teachers? Is it, again, just one of those check off the boxes situations? So it really just dives so deep into so many aspects that we are contributing to the process of them being able to walk out too soon. I mean, these people have gone through the education process. They wanted to be a teacher. Teaching has been in their bloodline for years, or, they've always wanted to be a teacher. And then all of a sudden you take somebody who has gone through 4 years of a traditional program. They've gone through the student teaching. They've done everything. And then they're ready to leave within 1 to 2 years. That's a us problem. That's a leader problem. That is not the teachers. They're out there and they want to be there. But what are we doing once we get them in there to really, truly mentor and help them navigate the craziness that can sometimes be inside some of the schools?
Yeah.
But if we get them and we mold them and we mentor them and we give them the same supports that we're saying that the teachers have to give to the students in order to get them to where you want them to be, right. That same type of support and mentorship and scaffolding, all those curriculum and the classroom management, we got to do that with our teachers too, our new teachers.
Right. So, they talk about it. You're right. They talk about all of the things like don't overtax the students with too much work and do small groups, and everything shouldn't be whole group. But then you got teachers with 30 students in a classroom or at the max when you're not supposed to. I'm talking K-5. I mean, I get it maybe in middle school, high school, but in K-5. And then that's another thing too, like in not letting even high schoolers let them be still young adults and like giving them time to work together in groups. And that's what CTAE does, and allow them to go outside from the ag ed standpoint. and be mobile and be kids and be like, hey, you know what I'm saying? You can't use that language you use with your friends or out on the street, but let's make it a little bit more realistic, because school is sometimes I don't know, it's you know, and I made the comment about the Abbott Elementary, and you know, they do stuff with satire and everything like that. They've done like the Steve Harvey show when he did that on Education, you know, they were like Welcome Back Carl and everything like that. And they take a light turn on, but that like it's that like those things have continued to be true. Like we have kids like that you just, hey, but you don't have time, but you want a teacher that already has 25, 26, 28, 30, 35 other kids to deal with all of those things, and the parents telling you they can't deal with, they only got 2 at home or 3 at home.
Right. The phone calls, the work, and you know, it's a balance that we've got to be able to give them the time to shut school off. They have their own families at home that are being neglected. And you know, I'm one of those, and I've, you know, had to let my kids know I'm sorry, you know, many times. Because I was a coach, I was a teacher, I was involved in every club, I was FBLA advisor, I was this, I was that, because I was pouring all of me into the school. And I mean, a lot of times they were able to come with me, or, you know, I was at their games, so I would get there, so I wouldn't miss their events or anything like that. But I was always in a rush, always in a move. And you have to realize that a lot of educators have that pull between, I know I need to give these kids that, and a lot of times you spend more time with other people's kids than you do your own. And so they are sacrificing more than most people from family, and then you don't want to come home and just trauma dump everything on your kids and your other significant other and tell them about your day. So you're trying not to be that person. But, you know, how do you get that out of your head and digress? But then you got to come right in the door and possibly get dinner ready, make sure everybody's homework is done, get people in the bed. Then you got stuff to grade, or you got lessons to plan. This is a profession that when we were going through COVID, we were, okay, before COVID, we were nothing. During COVID, we were everything, you know, teachers this, teachers that, teachers that. Now that all the COVID is gone and the kids are back, we're back to nothing. So it's one of those thankless jobs that the job is so thankless, but without us, the doctors, lawyers, the senators, the whomevers, they wouldn't be there where they are without us. But it's, again, you know, even the NBA players, the NFL players, all of these players that are out there, again, they wouldn't be where they are without us. But again, we're the thankless, you know, profession over here.
Yeah, and I look at them like, I look, you know, at the ones who do that, and I like, you know, I applaud them for like, for doing that, for being, you know, like doing those extracurricular activities, because it's a lot. Like it's a lot, and people say, well, they pay them for it. That little pay, by the time they tax it and wax it, it ain't nothing. It ain't. Right. It's nothing or anything like that. Like and like I say, yeah, I I have told, you know, that they may or may not see. I'm still deciding, because like I know that there's so much more to it. It has given me an insight. I can now speak from being back in it, so because I've done it every decade. I was when I was in college, that's the funny thing. When looking for a college job, I was a para in college, which so because I was like, yeah, I ain't finna work at no mall, and I'm definitely ain't working no fast food. I did that at 14, 15. After I turned 16, I wasn't working at nobody's fast. I knew that. That's the one thing I knew. So I started in college. That's how I did. And, you know, you get to see it and see some things. And I was like, wow. But so I've done it in the 90s and the thousands and the tens, not so much. I did it in the early, you know, that's when I left and was like, yeah, we went to Tennessee and did more charter school building and everything like that, then everything. But have seen education, all of it, and just know, like you said, like, yeah, we've got to find a way to understand these, because I'm understand these teachers and understand that they are humans and treating them like humans. Because one thing, I don't care who you are, I'm sorry, I feel that way. But luckily, as you know, I have other ways, I have other means of sustaining an income. And actually, sometimes I tell them, like, being here is hindering me from money. You know what I'm saying? Being here, I'm not doing this for money.
Right.
I'm not doing this for money, because there are certain people, and there are certain people we give it to our own, and then there's other people that pay for it and pay top dollar, because they have one or two that don't look like them, or they don't want to reach, or they have a population that's growing of things, and then they want to know ways to, and they will pay top dollar. Now they're gonna pay top dollar for it and probably try to take it and remix it, put a little some raisins in the potato salad, and but hey, they're gonna pay you top dollar for it when they first get it. And you know, I shouldn't say that. I know I shouldn't say that, but it is what it is, and it's real.
Yeah, I know. I tell my students the same thing, you know, about the cell phone usage in classrooms, you know, whatever. I'm like, put your phones up. You know, if anybody in this room as a real estate agent should have their phone out or be trying to figure out who's texting, who's calling, who's whatever, it should be me. I'm losing deals in here trying to give back to you all, because this is what I chose to do, because I know that there's a gap in post-secondary success. I know you all need it. I'm here for you. I'm in here. So if anybody needs to be on their phone, it's me. And if I can keep my phone up and away while I'm giving you my all, I expect the same out of you. And so I get it, the sacrifice that a lot of people are making. I think I even talk about that in the book, helping people understand, like, this is their chosen career. But what else is their passion? What else can they do to, like, take the mind and the stress and everything away, something else to look forward to? They've given all that they can give during the day. Where do they get their refill from? You know, what's that passion work that they can do outside of education, so that they can, again, when we're talking about that hierarchy of needs, how are they being fulfilled? You know, if this is something that's stressful for them and they need to just set it to the side and do their passion work, helping teachers identify what their passion work is too, outside of education. So again, it's looking at the whole person as as a person as a whole, not just, again, as a teacher. And I think that's where we get so we miss the mark when we just look at people as, you're an educator, you're a teacher, and everything relates to the classroom, students, teaching. And we forget that these people are humans, and they have other interests, and they have everything else that we should really make sure as leaders we know about their other interests, and make sure we celebrate their other interests as well. All right, so this has been a great talk. I have enjoyed it. I'm going to let you tell, I'm going to put it across the banner, but I'm going to let people know how they, I want you to let them know how they can connect with you, how they can follow you, how they can get in touch with you.
Okay. So we're talking about COGSTEM.org. So creating, and you just talked about with your children. So creating opportunities for girls, Inc. Was started because I saw a need for, honestly, Black children, but I'm a girl. I was a teen father. And so I was always involved. Like I said, I was in college raising my child, and things happen, you know. So I was a single teen dad, and just noted that that there needed to be, I saw things like at certain ages, I saw that some of my daughter's friends were going through things that she wasn't going through. I think I was overly, trying to overcompensate. So I started an organization, started out as a grassroots when she was still in middle school, to talk about those career exploration and those skills needed for the different STEM. And she wanted to be a nurse anesthetist at the time. She now is she does global, she has her own business where they take phones, all of our used phones, they go back, rewire them, recircuit them, and she spent time in El Salvador. Her husband is from El Salvador, and they, take our phones, refurbish them, do all the things they need to do them, and make them global ready for those pockets of Central and South America. And now they've expanded into Asia as well, because now I think they about 2 years ago started taking I don't know if it was Korean or Mandarin, but they started taking another language as well. They're both fluent Spanish speakers. Anyway, I started COG for that, and my tagline used to be cultivating STEM literate women, one girl at a time. But now we've moved to more of one girl at a time is so individualized, and so I'm more on global change now, more on global impact. Still same thing, still same love, still same passion. And they say when it comes from the heart, sometimes it's hard to remember. So I'm talking in all over the place, but I just want to say that it's just for not is. And to be honest with you, I started another part of it, STEAM Atlanta, so that I can be more co-ed. Because when I was going to get funding, I'm just going to go a little bit into funding for a second. When I was going to get funding and talking to institutions and organizations and corporations and Fortune 500 companies, they were saying, well, we don't see a need for Black boys, because they lump Black boys with men. They were like, men are in STEM, men are everything. So they didn't see Black boy out of, so a lot of it. So it was, and my daughter was the focus of it anyway. So COGSTEM came, and then I had to start STEAM Atlanta, an actual 7 years later, 2021, before I could get that that young men need this as well. But it's just another way of STEM is CTAE. CTAE is STEM, because STEM is everything. You can find CTAE and STEM in everything. There's nothing we can talk about that I can't make a CTAE or STEM reference about. So creating opportunities for girls, the website is cogstem.org. We're going through a revamp. I was just telling Coach that I was telling her, I call it, she gonna Coach D, but that's not what I call her. But we were just telling her how I was talking to my nonprofit consultant, because yes, it is a nonprofit is not does just be you can make money. It's a business. It's just a IRS designation. You can't use the money and give it to your shareholders and everything like that, but it is still should be run like a small business. And I was just telling her about how we were looking at changing our tagline to be more globally impactful. And we were talking about some things about what is needed. And it's just a way to help young women find their passion in careers, and to try to, I'm going to pause right there and just say this. It's diversity, it's equity, and it's inclusion in full name. It's not the acronym. It's diversity, it's equity, and it's inclusion. And it's about doing that through skills and through tangible experiences and tangible items that they can go and go into the world and say, hey, I got a story, real quick story. Do you kind of hit on this? Got a young lady, she's graduating from an HBCU under the USDA. And with everything that's going on, she was worried about, because she had the national 1890 national scholarship, not the individual school one, that national one. And so she has been interning every summer, and she already kind of knew where she was going to work with. But all these changes, she was worried about what she's going to do. And she's a first generation college. So her mom and her dad were talking to me about, like, we don't know how to navigate and help her. So, and she's real worried about this, about going on when she graduates. She's an agroeconomics major. She has skills that can go, hey, I'm going to help her get into private if she has to. Hey, the cattle industry is $1 billion industry. The number one crop in Georgia, as far as what we produce in Georgia, is not the peach, it's blackberries. I can get her into that. She's agroeconomics, using that math in agriculture. She's gonna be all right. She's going to be all right because she has a skill. And I'm using that as a testament to that's what COG is about. It's about helping those second generation, 10th generation, first generation, helping young women make a global impact and make a change in our perception of women, because it's not that, oh, that girl is good at math. It's all women are good at math in some way. We just have to find out what part of it that and it was Dr. Gilman that talked about ethnomathematics and talked about hair braiding, and then the math in hair braiding. We need to let these girls and these boys and everybody understand and know that these stories, this is not something new. History has always told us and always shown us that we need everybody, and we can't push people to the side. And we always like to say girls, but they are people first. And they are, and the people that bring experiences and bring a new lens and a new way of looking. So it's my passion. Like I say, it's my hard work. So it's hard work. And it's actually what made me decide to go back and look at public education. But yeah, I don't know how long I'm going to do that, but I'll always have that. That's my baby. And like my daughter says, it's basically her. It's hers, because she's the one, she was the inspiration. And so I tell everybody with that, find that thing that inspires you, find that thing that you love, and then cultivate it into something that you can leave behind when you're not here any longer.
Love it. All right. So you might have already answered my last final thought that I have for you before we end this, but you might have just said that. But again, what's one courageous conversation you hope this episode sparks in schools?
Taking a deep look into what schooling is, what we're really doing, what are we really doing, and why are we really doing it? Like we had, like the kids, why do I need to learn this? When am I going to use this? What are we doing, and why are we doing it the way we're doing it? And when is it going to make a difference? When are we going to see those gains in math, specifically in math education, because that's my passion. But and when are we going to and why do we keep making CTAE the stepchild to it all?
Love it. Great way to end. We're always going to be the champion for CTAE, but that's a great way to always. Thanks, Chuck. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for being a guest on Coach D Wants to Know. So for you all, again, we thank you all for listening. Continue to like, subscribe, follow both of us, and just keep up with us, because there's great things coming.
Thank you, Coach D. I appreciate you and appreciate the time.
You're welcome. That's a wrap for today's episode of Coach D Wants to Know. I hope this conversation sparked new ideas and opened up fresh possibilities for the future. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Also, check out the resources available on my website, KeystoneInstruction.com. And remember, the journey to success has many paths. Let's make sure every student finds their best fit. Until next time, together we can empower, innovate, and lead, one student, one teacher, one leader at a time. See you soon.